She looked down at him, so warm, so impossibly human, and for the first time in her scientific career, her fingers trembled. She'd mocked the idea that humans could create bonds through mating. Now, with one whisper from his lips against her skin, her pulse betrayed her. This couldn't be real. This couldn't be happening. It began 2 standard cycles ago when Dr. Soraya Kaalith stood before the Council of Galactic Sciences, her expression as precise as the calculations she worshipped. Her skin, a soft glimmer of violet, radiated sterile composure beneath the lights. She lifted her chin as she spoke. The concept of long-term pair bonding through mating in humans is nothing but a biochemical hiccup hardly deserving of the word love they so often attach to it. Her statement drew gasps across the interspecies network stream. The humans in attendance shifted uncomfortably. She didn't care. Her species, the Arixari, had evolved beyond emotional reliance. Controlled reproduction, clinical partnerships, and no dependency on affection. It was cleaner that way. Efficient. Then came the rebuttal. Dr. Kaalith, came a male voice behind her. She turned, mildly annoyed. He was tall for a human, rugged in that oddly careless way they carried themselves. Unshaven jaw, tousled dark hair, and eyes that didn't blink as he smiled. Jason Reyes, Terran Liaison Officer. Respectfully, how can you define something you've never experienced? Her eyes narrowed. Emotion is inefficient. Attachment clouds logic. Jason smirked, folding his arms across his chest. Funny. Some of our most brilliant scientists made breakthroughs inspired by love. Not logic. She turned away, dismissing him like a virus not worth cataloging. But when she received the mission briefing later that day, her internal temperature spiked 0.5 degrees. She'd be joined on her planetary research mission by Jason Reyes. Her first reaction was outrage. Her second was curiosity. They boarded the shuttle bound for Tessera 9 in tense silence. He wore a faint scent, something earthen, strange, and irritatingly comforting. She sat across from him, absorbing data from her tablet while pretending not to notice his presence. Jason leaned back in his seat, boots crossed, arms behind his head. You always this chatty, he teased. I communicate when necessary, she answered coldly. Makes sense, he murmured. Her emotions might be contagious. She ignored him, but her body didn't. Her heart rate elevated. Her eyes drifted to the pulse in his neck, steady and strong. Curious. Their vessel descended into Tessera's orbit just as a magnetic storm erupted in the atmosphere. The ship jolted violently. Alarms screamed. Brace. Jason shouted, yanking her harness tighter. She tried to protest, but the craft slammed downward. Metal shrieked. Systems failed. Then, darkness. When she woke, they were grounded. The pod was damaged but intact. Jason sat nearby, wiping blood from his temple. His eyes flicked toward her immediately. You all right? She nodded slowly. Minor contusions. Nothing critical. Good. We're stuck. Comms were down. Navigation corrupted. Environmental scans showed the storm wouldn't clear for days. They found temporary shelter in a cave system beneath the rocky surface, dry, surprisingly warm, and shielded from the magnetic interference. They set up a power cell for heat and light. The glow painted soft shadows on the walls. She catalogued the environment clinically, noting mineral deposits and fungal growth. Jason dug out ration packs and made a small fire. Want one? He asked, holding out a thermal bar. I don't consume human food. He arched a brow. It's protein. Won't kill you. She hesitated, then took it. The taste was foreign. Textured. Warm. Hours passed. The storm outside raged, echoing like distant thunder through the rock. Soraya sat with her back against the cave wall, attempting to recalibrate her biosensors. Jason leaned back against the other wall, rubbing his shoulder. You're injured. Bruise. Nothing serious. Let me examine it. He looked at her, surprised. But when he shifted closer, she took his arm and touched the swelling carefully. Heat radiated from him like fire contained in skin. She logged it silently, but her hands lingered longer than necessary. A pulse skipped in her neck. He didn't pull away. I thought you didn't care about injuries, he murmured. I care about mission integrity. His breath was close now. She could feel it on her cheek. Her fingers tightened involuntarily on his arm. A moment passed. She pulled away abruptly. It's late. You should rest. Jason didn't argue. He just nodded, moving toward the sleeping mat he had unrolled earlier. As he lay down, he looked over at her. You ever think, maybe you were wrong about us? She didn't respond. But her thoughts wouldn't still. She lay awake, watching the cave ceiling shimmer faintly as the storm outside pulsed like a heartbeat. Later, long past the silence, a subtle vibration passed through the cave floor, barely perceptible. She sat up slowly. Jason stirred too. Did you feel that? She nodded. Could be tectonic activity, or interference from. The wall nearest them lit faintly with bioluminescent patterns. She stepped closer, touching the glowing rock. And then, she felt it. A surge. Not from the cave. From herself. Her body responded, unbidden. Her fingers tingled. Her breath quickened. Her chest tightened not from fear, but something stranger. A longing she had no name for. Behind her, Jason stepped up silently. Close enough to feel. Not touching. Just heat. You okay? He asked softly. She turned. He was too near. And not near enough. Their eyes met, and for one impossible moment, she forgot every chart, every law of biology, every equation etched into her mind. His hand lifted gently to her cheek, waiting for permission. She didn't move. Didn't blink. Then, his thumb brushed her skin. The contact was electric. Her pulse spiked. Her breath caught. She closed her eyes, shivering. A single thought echoed inside her. This is not supposed to happen. But it was. And it had begun. She told herself it was the cave's atmosphere, the strange minerals, the temperature shifts, the electromagnetic interference. Her body had never betrayed her before. But now, every time he moved, her senses flared. He didn't touch her again that night. But she remembered his hand on her cheek. The warmth. The hesitation. The way he waited for her to lean in, and the fact that she almost had. The next morning, she rose early and pretended to focus on data scans. Jason had taken off his jacket, using it as a pillow. In sleep, he looked vulnerable. Human softness. The kind she'd always assumed was weakness. But now she noticed the strength in that softness. The lines at the corners of his mouth. The scar on his jaw. The faint crease in his brow even while he dreamed. She turned away sharply. Her internal diagnostics pinged, elevated blood pressure, accelerated pulse, inconsistent thermal readings. Hormonal disruption due to environmental stress, she logged mechanically. But the readings only shifted when he was near. He woke an hour later, stretching with a grunt. Storm's still going. She didn't look at him. I'm recalibrating the atmospheric filter. The ion count's rising. He sat up, rubbing the back of his neck. You didn't sleep. I don't require as much rest. He walked past her, brushing close. Too close. She flinched, barely, and hated herself for it. Later, they worked together to repair the beacon. The core crystal had cracked. They needed to splice in energy from the power cell. It required them both to be shoulder to shoulder, hands moving in sync, breaths aligning. Jason was careful. He didn't touch her unless necessary. But his presence was heavy. She could feel the heat of his skin even when they didn't connect. At one point, his fingers grazed hers by accident. She jerked as if burned. He looked at her. I'm not gonna hurt you, Soraya. I didn't say you would. But you act like I already have. She didn't respond. Couldn't. That night, she dreamed. She hadn't dreamed in years. Her kind suppressed dream function for mental efficiency. But in this dream, Jason's mouth was against her neck. His hands explored her skin like he was trying to memorize it. She whispered words she didn't recognize, words that tasted sweet and wild on her tongue. When she woke, she was flushed. Her skin damp. Her breath uneven. Jason was awake, quietly tending the fire. She didn't speak, But he glanced at her. Nightmares. She shook her head. Then what? She paused. Do you always affect people like this? Jason's brow furrowed. Like what? Confuse them. He smiled faintly. Only the ones who try too hard not to feel. She hated how accurate that was. Later that day, Jason cut his palm on a shard of fractured metal. She rushed forward without thinking, grabbing his wrist. Let me see. It's nothing. But she pulled his hand close, inspecting the wound. Blood welled up, bright and red. Human blood. So fragile. So alive. She felt it then, not fear. Not pity. Something deeper. Protective. I'll clean it, she said, voice lower than she meant. He sat still as she wiped the wound, her fingers brushing his skin. When she wrapped it with cloth from her medkit, her hands shook. He noticed. Soraya. She didn't look up. Soraya. Finally, she met his gaze. I don't know what this is, he said softly. But I feel it too. I don't want to feel it. I didn't ask you to. His words struck deeper than she expected. She sat back, heart pounding. I was taught emotions are distractions. Dangerous ones. They are, he said. But sometimes they're the only thing that makes life worth surviving. She stared at him, searching for mockery. There was none. That evening, a tremor shook the cave again. Larger this time. Stones rattled from the ceiling. Jason jumped up and pulled her to the side. Come here, watch your head. She stumbled. A loose shard fell and grazed her leg. Blood welled up, darker than his. Jason swore under his breath, catching her before she hit the wall. You okay? It's superficial. Still needs wrapping. She let him clean it. His hands were strong but gentle, each touch careful, almost reverent. When he finished, he didn't move away. Soraya. She looked up. His face was inches from hers. His breath mixed with hers. Her thoughts scattered. She began. And then he kissed her. It wasn't aggressive. It wasn't tentative. It was deep. Steady. Certain. Her body stiffened, then melted. Her hands lifted to his shoulders, gripping fabric, anchoring herself to something real. She felt her skin come alive where he touched her, heat blooming in places she had never acknowledged before. He broke the kiss first, eyes searching hers. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm not, she said. The words escaped before she could suppress them. She was unraveling, and it was terrifying. But part of her didn't want to stop. Later, after the fire dimmed and Jason drifted to sleep again, she sat alone in the cave's corner. The air was still. Silent. She activated her bias can. The readings were clear. Hormonal surges. Oxytocin spikes. Accelerated limbic activity. And something else. She zoomed in on the cellular level. Her genome. 2 markers, foreign. Adaptive. She froze. Human genetic traces. Cellular restructuring. This wasn't just psychological. Her body was responding to him on a molecular level. The myth she mocked wasn't a myth. It was real. And she was proof. The following day was quieter. Not in silence, but in restraint. Jason moved with the same grace, the same awareness, but something had shifted. He avoided touching her. His eyes lingered too long and then darted away. The kiss hovered between them, unspoken but burning. Soraya tried to act unaffected. She calibrated instruments. Took readings. Studied the storm's decay pattern. But every number blurred in her vision. Every scan stuttered. She knew why. Her body wouldn't stop humming. It wasn't just heat in her veins anymore, it was change. Her cells had accepted something foreign. Human. And they weren't rejecting it. They were inviting it. The genetic markers were binding. Threads of something ancient and impossible were weaving into her molecular structure. It should have been terrifying. It was intoxicating. When Jason returned from scouting the upper ridge, his face was windburned, and his jaw clenched. Signals coming through in pulses, he said. Weak, but it's there. Rescues possible within 2 days. She nodded, pretending to feel nothing. But inside, panic stirred. 2 days. And then this, whatever it was, would end. They sat near the fire, sharing warmth again. He held a thermal pack between his palms. She studied him from the corner of her eye. "You've been quiet," he said, voice low. "I have nothing to say. You kissed me. You kissed me first." He smiled faintly. "You kissed me back." She stared into the flames. It was a miscalculation. He leaned closer. "Then why are your hands shaking right now?" She tucked them beneath her arms. Residual tremor from the tectonic shifts. He turned to her. His voice was gentle but unwavering. "You don't have to lie to yourself. Not here. Not with me." She looked at him, and something in her cracked. "No one's ever touched me like that," she whispered. Jason didn't flinch. "Do you regret it?" "I don't know," she admitted. "It wasn't supposed to happen. I wasn't supposed to." Her breath caught. "Change." Jason's brow furrowed. "Change how?" She hesitated. But the truth felt heavy now, like a dam swelling against its walls. "I ran a bias scan," she said softly. "My genome is altering." He straightened slightly, alarm flashing in his eyes. "What does that mean?" "I don't know yet. My body is reacting to your presence. Contact. Emotion. It's assimilating it." Jason took a slow breath. "Are you in danger?" She shook her head. "No. It feels stabilizing. Almost like my system has found a missing piece it didn't know it lacked." Jason was silent. Then, in a whisper, "Soraya, what if that's what love is?" The word lingered in the space between them. Love. She'd always dismissed it as a crude cultural concept. Now it tasted like starlight on her tongue, strange, impossible, and suddenly essential. "I don't know what I'm becoming," she said, almost to herself. Jason reached out, hesitated, and then touched her face. His thumb brushed her cheekbone. She didn't pull away. "You're becoming real," he said. She closed her eyes. For once, her logic went silent. All that remained was sensation. His warmth. His scent. His heartbeat syncing with hers. She leaned in. The kiss this time was not accidental. It was surrender. His lips were soft and deliberate, his hands sliding to her waist, anchoring her to the moment. She opened to him, her fingers weaving through his hair. She'd never been taught this kind of closeness, no one in her species needed it. But now she craved it. They lowered to the ground, the fire casting soft flickers of gold across their skin. He removed his jacket, draping it beneath them. She pressed her palm to his chest, feeling the rhythm of his heart like a drum calling her home. His voice was barely a breath against her ear. "Are you sure?" She nodded. He moved slowly, reverently, as if she were fragile when in truth, she'd never felt stronger. Their bodies met in silence and starlight, a dance of fire and frost melting into something new. Every touch unraveled her carefully constructed identity. Every kiss rebuilt her in his image. She wasn't just adapting. She was becoming. Afterward, she lay against him, her head resting on his shoulder, her breath slowly evening out. Her skin glowed faintly in the cave's ambient light, like something reborn. Jason stroked her back gently. "Are you okay?" "I don't have the words for what I feel." He smiled. "Welcome to being human." She laughed softly, the sound foreign to her own ears. "It's inefficient." "Yeah," he whispered, lips brushing her temple. "But it's worth it." They slept entwined, limbs tangled, no barriers left. But the cave was not silent. From the other chamber, the old alien walls shimmered again, reacting, recording. The cave had seen this kind of connection before. Long ago. In ancient times, when species met, collided, merged. A silent pulse rippled outward. As if the planet itself had recognized what was happening. By morning, Soraya's body felt different. Her senses sharper. Her heartbeat steady. No resistance, no pain. Her biology had accepted the shift. She was no longer purely Arixari. Something else now lived within her. And when Jason woke, pulling her gently closer without a word, she no longer questioned what they were becoming. But she didn't tell him everything. Not yet. Because one scan remained unread. And what it showed would change everything. She sat alone in the far corner of the cave, wrapped in silence while Jason slept. His chest rose and fell steadily, his arm still warm where it had draped around her just hours earlier. But Soraya couldn't sleep. Not after what the final scan revealed. She stared at the holoscreen projected from her wristband. The data pulsed faintly, as if breathing with her. 2 genomes. One hers. One, new. Merged. And deeper in the strands, nestled between adaptive proteins and cellular shifts, something else. A formation cluster. Not random. Not residual. It was organized. Shielded. Protected. Growing. She placed a hand gently on her stomach, unable to tear her eyes away from the evidence. It had already begun. The myths weren't myths at all. They were warnings. Or perhaps prophecies. Soraya's people had purged emotional bonding to preserve their cold efficiency, but the truth had been buried. Mating wasn't just connection. It was integration. Their bodies had always known how to reach across species, if the bond was true. But it required surrender. Vulnerability. Trust. She had given all 3. And now, she wasn't alone. Jason stirred, eyes blinking open as morning light filtered faintly through a crack above. He stretched and turned, immediately registering her distant expression. "What's wrong?" he asked, sitting up. She didn't answer right away. "I need to show you something," she said at last. He nodded, concern flickering across his features as she projected the bioscan between them. He studied the floating helix quietly. His eyes widened. "This is you." She nodded. "And this? I think it's us." He was silent. Not from fear. Not from shock. But from the weight of it. He stood slowly, crossing to her. Kneeling in front of her. "Are you okay?" "I feel stronger than I ever have," she admitted. "I feel whole. Like I was born incomplete, and didn't know until you touched me." His hand found hers, fingers lacing. "What does it mean?" he asked softly. "It means everything I thought I knew about my body, my people, our limitations, was wrong." Jason exhaled slowly. "And the formation?" Her hand trembled slightly as she brought it back to her abdomen. "My body's not just changing. It's creating." His breath caught. "Soraya." She looked up. "I thought you'd be angry. Afraid." "I'm not," he said quietly. "I don't know what this means for us, for our future, but I know one thing." He leaned in, pressing his forehead to hers. "I don't want to lose you." "You won't," she whispered. Outside, the first sun of Tessera 9 broke through the clouds. The storm had cleared. The sky was violet gold, with thin ribbons of mist curling above the trees. A soft hum sounded in the cave. The beacon had rebooted. Their signal was being broadcast. Rescue would arrive soon. Jason stood and began gathering supplies, folding the emergency blankets, powering down the energy core. But every few minutes, he glanced back at her, his eyes softer now, filled with something she had no word for. Love, perhaps. When the shuttle arrived, she stood beside him at the cliff's edge. The craft descended, its engines stirring dust into glowing swirls around them. As the hatch opened, she hesitated. "They'll want answers," she said. "My people, they'll test me. They'll want to undo this." Jason looked at her. "Then don't let them. They may exile me. Then come with me." She stared at him. "You're serious?" Jason smiled. "Dead serious. I've seen planets with no air, fought wars I didn't believe in, lost people I loved. But I've never felt anything like what I feel with you. If you go, I'll follow. If you stay, I'll stay." Her heart clenched. Not from fear. From truth. She took his hand, stepped onto the shuttle beside him, and didn't look back. Weeks passed. Galactic councils sent inquiries. Scientists offered theories. Debates flared. Some called it a breakthrough in interspecies integration. Others called it contamination. She ignored them all. In a quiet human outpost on the edge of the Taukiri system, Soraya began her research again. Not as a detached observer, but as living proof. Jason stayed with her, helping her build a life from scratch. They argued sometimes, teased, kissed often, slept curled together through quiet nights under unfamiliar stars. She laughed now, regularly, and sometimes, when he wasn't looking, she'd place her hand over her belly and close her eyes. What grew inside her wasn't just a child. It was a future neither species had dared imagine. One born not of conquest, not of logic, not of duty, but of connection. Her final research log began with the words, Case study number 001, when the heart overrules the genome. She paused before recording the last line. Then whispered, the myth was never a myth. It just needed the right human.